So, good evening once again, and welcome to today's class. For today's class, we shall be considering the open economy with respect to openness in goods and financial markets with various exchange rate regimes. In the topic for today, we shall be considering an introduction to that particular topic. We consider openness. We consider the openness in goods market. Then we consider exchange rate policy. Okay, we look at the fixed and floating exchange rates. And then we look at openness in financial markets. Okay, exchange rate policy. Okay, and then we look at the fixed and floating exchange rates. Then we'll look at openness in financial markets. So we have three different types of openness. We have openness in goods, openness in the financial markets, and openness in the factor market. Factor market has to do with mobility of labor, movement of labor, okay? At your level, you are not to consider this particular aspect, okay? And even this openness in goods and financial markets is broad, all right? But at your level, you are just only going to understand what openness is in goods mean, then openness in financial markets, okay? So please, at 400 level, this particular topic is being repeated, but with special attention to linking the goods market, okay, and then the financial market. So in your 400 level, you would see a repetition of this topic, but in this consideration, the linking of the goods market and the financial market is considered. So that is when you begin to discuss interest rate and uncovered interest rate parity. That is for 400 level. So for now, you are to understand openness in goods. Okay, you are to understand openness in financial market. Okay, in 400 level, you are to understand openness in factor market, and then you are to link openness in goods and openness in financial market together. And that is where you now begin to talk about ISLM BP model, ISLM BP model, where you now bring in openness in the financial market together. So as an introduction, we need to cast our mind back to the concept of an open and a closed economy, all right? We need to cast our mind back to the concept of an open and a closed economy and its dynamic. So if I may ask, I would like someone to kind of raise his or her hands, okay, and just tell me what an open economy is and what a closed economy is, and then just tell me an example of an open economy, an example of a closed economy. Anybody? Okay, so Munna, can you tell us open economy and a closed economy?
Good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can perfectly.
Okay, so an open economy is an economy that kind of trades with other economies or other countries. And examples of open economies are basically all the economies in the world. Then for a closed economy, they don't engage in any export or import activities, and they mostly practice the domestic economy. And an example should be the global world, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Who else? Okay, so I suppose that is what the other person raising up his hands wanted to say. So that's perfect, and I like that particular answer. So that gives you okay, Krona, you're raising your hands, or was it by mistake?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I wanted to talk about closed economy.
okay, all right. I can hear you.
Um, yes, I think in the previous class also you talked about okay seeing the earth as a closed economy, and I think one of the countries that actually is close to practicing the closed economy is North Korea, and there's this economic term used which is called autarky, like a country trying to do things on its own, but in the real sense, it's actually impossible. There's no country that can be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my own view about it.
Okay, so for two of you that answered, you have two marks. So after, please, I think Aura is on the platform. Aura, Aura, are you on the platform? Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. Moya Moya, are you on the platform? Okay. All right. So, all right. After the class, please, you can send in your matric numbers to two of you to, all right. So you've got to.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I'm here, sir.
Okay. Is that Moya?
Yes, sir.
Moya, Moya, the class governor.
Yes, sir.
So, just like they rightly explained, that is it. Of course, there is no economy again that practices a closed economy. Okay, even the North Korea and what have you, they would still depend on the foreign economies um, to get in some of their goods or some of their services. So for example, North Korea will still trade with Russia, okay, for arms and ammunition. And today, Afghanistan has been taken over by the Taliban fighters, and they ousted the president out. US is also trying to leave the country. And today, as at now, there's still a little bit of chaos in Afghanistan. But if after 20 years of Afghanistan Taliban's fighting and they are back, even if US fails to recognize them, they are changing it now to the independent Emirates of Afghanistan. They're changing the country now. Even if US, UK, China, France, even if they fail to recognize them, the truth remains that Afghanistan will always trade with, even if it's one country. As at now, Pakistan has recognized the Taliban as the leaders in Afghanistan. So, US is open and is willing once or in as much as the Taliban are ready to protect the girls' rights to education, girls' right to engage, women's right to engage in productive activities, and then prosecution in the right way should go, in as much as it is not too extreme to the Sharia law and all of that. US is open. France, Germany, UK, they said they are still observing, okay, as events unfold. So what I'm trying to say is this: today, even if all those countries fails to recognize Afghanistan or the Emirates of Afghanistan as a state, Pakistan already has done that. And Pakistan is going to trade with them. So that means there is no closed economy, as you can see. While what we have as the closed economy is the global economy or the world economy, just like they've said. But you should also understand that that might also change very soon. Okay, I think I discussed that when we've not had this case of Jeff Boas. that just traveled to space, spent $5.5 billion. He didn't go to space just to look at the space and greet the space for 5 minutes and tell the space, bye-bye, I came to see you. No, he of course went there just to see if that particular place can be habitable. Okay, and so that means once that place becomes a place that can be habited, definitely the earth, of course, is changing due to global warming. They might need to go there. You will now see that the global economy will no longer be considered as a closed economy, because with technological advancement, you will get to see the activities of things happening in the space. So one thing you need to understand is that economics is dynamics, it's changing, and its definition will keep changing, okay? All you need to do is just to embrace yourself and be up to date. Again, you need to understand that when we talk about openness, you cannot discuss macroeconomics without considering openness or without considering the activities of the external sector. You cannot discuss macroeconomics. So we've been able to build the market, okay? Commodity market, money market, link the two together. We have the aggregate demand. We look at the labor market, link it with labor demand and labor supply. We have the aggregate supply. We look at aggregate demand, aggregate supply in the short run and in the long run. And then when we did that, we were able to understand the activities that goes on in that particular aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. Okay. Now we are introducing you to the open economy. That's openness. Okay. When you get to year 4, the aggregate demand, aggregate supply we did, you are going to redo it considering the open economy. In the aggregate demand, aggregate supply we did not consider the open economy, okay? We only considered the economy as we have it in Nigeria, and we assumed that the economy is not exposed, all right, to external activities. That is what we did. And that is why throughout our analysis, you never saw anything like exchange rates. You never saw anything like exports. You never saw anything like import. We de-emphasize that because we are considering just the closed economy. In your year 4, you are going to do a repetition of that IADAS and considering the open economy, okay? And in that case, the ISLM will no longer, it's now the ISLMBP. So you need to understand that for economics, okay, the external sector must always be considered. In fact, the domestic economy cannot be considered in isolation. Today, you have or we have many activities that is intertwining, okay, from the global economy, from the foreign economy to the domestic economy. Initially, remittances was a big deal, was a big case, all right? Remitting money was a big deal. And we have organizations that were selling it off, you know, Western Union Money Transfer, Easy Pass Akamu. They were doing so many adverts just to transfer money, dollar. People will go to a bank and queue at Western Union Money Transfer stand. I cannot receive dollar. Today, those things don't exist. Some of you that are good, that are into website designing, that are into some online stuffs, even analysis works for people. You get to, I know some of you have colleagues, people that are in UK, US, Canada, and they just transfer your money to your account. They just send it from their own dollar account, from their own pounds account. They just, World Remit will do that. Just send your money, your cash equivalent to your account, and it hits your account. You can use your MasterCard, Visa card, ATM card now in abroad. So what am I trying to say? The economy, you can no longer consider a closed economy. You can no longer consider Nigerian economy in isolation of the what? Of the external sector. Very important. That is the first thing you need to understand. So, and with that, we have what we call home versus host economy, all right? In openness, there is always a transfer, okay? It can be a transfer of liquidity, money, okay? That's a form of a portfolio investment, all right? It can also be a transfer of goods. That is your trade, export and import. And it can also be a transfer of capital, assets, okay? And that's why you talk about direct what? Investment. You will always have the home economy. You will always have the host economy, okay? So the home economy tells you the economy, all right, of the investor, okay? The foreign investor will always leave his home economy, all right, and then come to the host economy. So if a US citizen leaves America and then comes to Nigeria, okay, to install his plants, to the US citizen, his home economy is who? Is US, while the host economy is what? Nigeria. These are critical things you need to understand as an introduction, okay? So now let's consider or look at this openness. We look at openness in goods market, openness in financial markets, and openness in factor markets. This is just like a definition of it, okay? All right? But it's not limited to that definition. We are only going to consider openness in goods market and openness in financial market. Openness in factor market is more or less like labor mobility. And whenever you begin to move labor, like as a Nigerian, I'm in Nigeria here, I can get a job in Ghana and move to Ghana and be working in Ghana. And later I come back. The higher the pace of that, that's the more integrated those particular economies will be, okay? Sorry, Samuel Uashegu, your hands are raised. Your hands are raised. What is it, sir?
Yes, sir. It was with respect to the one you just explained before, talking about the openness in good market, the home and the other one. I didn't get that explanation very well.
Okay, so I was saying that we will always have openness, okay? And openness can come in the form of goods, okay? And that's when you talk about trade, export and import. Openness can come in the form of liquidities, all right? And that's when you talk about money flows, remittance and portfolio investment. Portfolio investment. An American will just look at the share price in Nigeria, the share of GT Bank, all right? And just decide to pump his money and buy shares in Nigerian Stock Exchange. And whenever the market is not favorable, within 2 hours, 1 hour, he sells off his money and take his money back. That is openness in liquidities, okay? And we can also have openness in capital, transfer of capital, assets, okay? Under that particular arrangement, that is where you have direct investment, okay? So whenever you are having that direct investment, it's a long-term project. When we get to openness in financial markets, you would see it's a long-term agenda. And so when the foreigner leaves his country, for example, an American leaves US to come to Nigeria, Chevron, and install his plants, to the American, his home economy is US, while the host economy is Nigeria. Nigeria is hosting the American, okay? So you need to understand the home economy and the host economy and how it is used. That's just for that purpose. So I believe that's clear. So now, when we're talking about openness in goods markets, okay? What we are saying under this analysis is just a situation where consumers have the ability, or firms have the ability to make choices between domestic goods and foreign goods. So whenever you have openness in goods market, what is happening? There's a flow of goods, all right, both inflow and outflow. The inflow talks about what? Imports. The outflow talks about what? The export. So with that scenario, that's what we talk about openness in goods market, all right? And I said, in no country is this choice completely free of restrictions. There is no country. There is no country, okay, that is free of restrictions. So even as you decide to say, oh, please come and buy, come and sell, come and buy, come and sell, come and buy, come and sell, come and buy, come and sell. Some of the goods there will always be restrictions in some of the goods, and there will always be a free flow of some of the goods. And that's why I said in no country is this choice completely free of restrictions. Even the countries most committed to free trade have tariffs. So even economies are saying, no problem, please, bring your goods. We're taking your goods, and then we can sell ours. They still impose restrictions, okay? There are still restrictions in form of what? Tariffs. You know, when you talk about tariffs, you're talking about tax on imported goods. That's tariffs. So I hope you know we have tariffs, we have custom duties. Custom duties is tax on the goods you are exporting. Why tariffs are tax on what? Imported goods. Then we have quotas. Quotas is also where you place a restriction on the quantities of goods that can be imported. So for at least some foreign goods, there will always be some restriction. For example, in Nigeria, we have restrictions on cement, okay? Restrictions on cement. We have restrictions on staple foods, okay? The rice, the beans, the flour, and all of that. So they place restrictions on all of that. The basic ideology behind that is just to protect the domestic firms, the domestic firms, just to protect them. Else, that particular market will be open, okay? So no matter how you preach openness, another word for openness you need to understand is globalization. So no matter how you preach globalization, no matter how you preach or talk about openness, there are scenarios, there will always be cases whereby there are restrictions on some goods, restrictions on some imported goods, okay? And then we have openness in financial markets, all right? For openness in financial markets, that's where you have transfer flows, okay, of domestic assets and foreign assets. Those assets can come in the form of liquidities or physical assets. So the transfer of assets come in two forms: liquidity or physical assets. That is openness in financial markets. Then for openness in factor markets, this is the free or flow of workers, okay? Workers, laborers, okay? Those ones are moving from one particular country to the other in charge of what? In search of labor, for movement of labor. And why we are not considering this is because once you talk about openness in labor movement, within that scenario, most economies are restricted to it, except such economies are integrated. So that is why under this case, you don't talk about openness in labor market at this macro level, at this year 3, not even year 4, at masters. Then you can talk about it a bit in monetary in your year 4, monetary economics in your year 4, because the purpose of integration is so that we can have free flow of labor. That's the purpose. Most economies now, there is free flow of goods. There's almost free flow of goods. You pay your tariff, you pay your custom excise duty. When you pay all of that, you still import your goods. What importers will do, they'll just place the cost as an additional cost. So that is why Cars are cheap. To buy a car, for example, there are some apps online that you can buy a car. All right. And you look at the price of the car, those second-hand cars in US, that had accident once or somebody wants to dispose it of. You look at the price. The price of the car might just be $1,000. I remember that was 2019. 2019, yes. The price of the car might just be $1,000. $1,500. And as at then, $1,500 was just like 700,000 naira. 700. Cost of transporting it might just be like $500 or $800. Go and check. So at the end, it's just like $1,500 or $1,800 to buy the car, ship it in. But guess what? When it gets to Nigerian border, the price to now take it out and clear it, you might now have to pay ×2, depending on the type of car you are importing. I remember that my friend imported Venza then, and he paid about 2.5 million to clear it. And he only spent about 1.3 or 1.4 to buy and shipping. At the end, everything is about 4.2 or 4.5 million. That was 2019. So if he is to sell that particular car now, he will just place it on sale, 4.5 or 5 million. Of course, it's US used and it's so clean, it's so good, blah, 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 and blah. So when I talk about openness in goods market, importers just place the cost of the tariff, they just add it on the price and they sell, they move. If you're talking about openness in financial markets, they can easily withdraw their fund easily with technology. Okay? Even with respect to capital flows in terms of foreign direct investments, they can also do that. Look at ShopRite. They announced early this year that they will be closing up. Okay, there is an example of direct investment. You can't just close immediately if you are talking about direct investment. You don't just fold up and just wind up that finish. Let me go bye-bye. You don't do that because you've installed your plants, your physical asset, and you need time to dispose them. You've employed people. That is why you look at Airtel now. At first, it was Vodafone. From Vodafone, it was sold to Econet. From Econet, it was sold to V-Mobile. From V-Mobile, it became Zain. From Zain is now Airtel. Okay? That means because they've come to install. When Vodafone was tired and felt it's unprofitable, they needed to leave. They can't just leave and pack their bag and be going because the money they've spent on licensing, the sunk cost is huge. Okay, so same goes to that particular scenario for others. So what does that mean? So that means for openness in goods market and openness in financial market, it can be easily achieved. But openness in factor market is people are very careful because once you are moving labor, there's inflow and outflow. There's a risk of jobs. One, there's a risk of bringing in strange personality, culture, all right, threats, okay? And so when it comes to openness and factor market, is a special topic. That's under what we have economic integration. And look at what happened to Britain. That is why you see that Brexit. They decided that no, we are pulling out because we need to protect our own labor. You see people from France, from France, Scotland. Okay, Scotland is part of UK. Wales, Scotland, and Ireland are part of UK. You see people from France, from Germany, from all those European countries. They follow speed train to come and work in London. And once they work finish, they just go. And they don't pay tax. They only pay the tax on their salary, personal income tax. That's the only thing they pay. So in terms of using the resources in UK, they don't pay the tax on all of those. They just work and they go. So UK felt that we are just opening up. People are just coming here to, check. People are just coming. Check money people that have houses in London. They are not really UK born, UK born citizens. Most of them are Asia, other European countries. So Britain just felt that we are just open. You just come here, you walk, you go. You just come, you walk, you go. Just come, you walk. Because UK, London, very expensive to live. And that's why they decided, no. If you want to walk, you need to apply for visa. We need to consider the work you want to do. We then need to approve or we won't approve. So that is the openness in what? Factor market. Okay. At this point, so let's consider when we talk about openness in goods market, all right, we need to consider one, the nature and determinants of import and export of developing economies. Okay, once we are considering openness in goods market, what we are talking about or talking of is what? Imports and exports. That's it. Openness in goods market, flow of goods. All right, both inflow and outflow, and that is import and export. Okay, so what are the determinants of import and export? I don't need to ask what is import. I don't need to ask what is export. You should know all of that. Okay, so but for openness in goods market, we are looking at the import and export, and we ask ourselves, what are the determinants of import and what export? All right, there are two major determinants, okay, of both your import as well as what? As well as your what? Your export, okay? And the two determinants, okay, for export is dependent or is determined by one, exchange rate, all right? And then two, foreign income. Those are the two determinants of what? Of export. This for import, what are the two determinants? One, exchange, okay, exchange rate, all right. And then two is domestic income. So these are the two determinants of what? Export and what? Import, all right. And so now for foreign income, the relationship between for export and foreign income is what? Is positive. Meaning, if the income of the advanced economies, talk about foreign income, that is income of US, income of all those foreign economies, people that buy from us, once their income improves, okay, you expect what? Exports to do what? To improve. Okay. For import also, the relationship between import and domestic income is what? Is positive also. Once your domestic income improves, for developing economies, the next thing they'll be thinking of is what? Is how to import. For example, if I begin to hammer and I have money, do you think I'll be wearing this Nigerian Yaba made shirt? No. I will join the Gucci what? Gucci family. Abi, I will start posting Gucci on my head, Gucci on my shoulder, Gucci on my leg, Gucci on my shoe. So you look at all these people, the video, you see the chain and everything they are carrying. None of them is Aba made. Their income is much, and so what do? They opt for what? Importation. They opt for what? Foreign goods. That is it. That I remember I said I'm describing the nature and determinants, okay, of import and export for developing what? Economies. All right, for developing what? Economies. I would pause with respect to exchange rates. Okay, I'm going to pause with respect to exchange rate, not until I explain how exchange rates, how you consider exchange rates, then I should be able to explain that relationship. Okay, so that tells us the nature, all right, and determinants of imports and what? Export of developing economy, all right? Then let's look at the constituents of Nigeria's international markets. That is, when you look at the Nigerian international market, how or what is the nature of the import? What is the nature of the export? What are the constituents of the import? And what are the constituents of the what? Of the export? What can help us to explain this is when we consider the data on import and the data on what? Export. So I would open that particular data or that particular information so that we can see the nature of our import, the nature of our export, and what constitutes our import, what constitutes our export. So you will see the one that is more, and that gives you an idea how open our own economy is. All right? Okay. So let's look at it. So it's opening. Yeah. Okay. So it's opened. So we can let's look at, for import, they are categorized into two: the oil importation and the non-oil importation. Okay, so I'm going to make it a bit bigger. So the import, the oil importation, and the non-oil importation. So this is from 1981 to 2020. So, but let's just consider from 2015 down to 2020. Okay, you see that for importation, the non-oil import is about 18 trillion. You can see it in 2020, 18 trillion. All right. Now look at 2018. 2018 was 10.5 trillion. That was 2018, 10.5 trillion. Between 2018 and 2019, it increased by 9 trillion. It increased by 9 trillion. Okay? And then the oil import was minimal, 4.3 trillion, 2018. 2019 was 4.1 trillion. And then 2020, all right, what we have for 2020 is what? 2.9 trillion. So if you look at this, let me ask a question. What are the things you can say about the nature of Nigeria's import sector as an aspect of openness? What can you say looking at this data? I need some answers. Oh, nobody's saying anything.
Sir, the question again, please.
I said, looking at this data now, what can you say about the nature of Nigeria's import as an aspect of openness in goods market? What can you say? Nobody is saying anything.
So we are studying the chart, sir.
Okay. So, Sholade Akin, what is the observation? Or Sholodi Akin?
From what I studied is that since import of goods, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
This import of good depends on the money made by the citizens in the country. That's disposable income. 2019 to 2020, our disposable income reduced. So from 4 trillion imports in oil to 2 trillion, then from 19 trillion in oil to 18 trillion in non-oil imports. That's what I noticed.
Okay. Any other hands raised? Abdurrahman Sanut.
Yeah. Viewing, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. And looking at the data, I think the contrast between the import and exports is what I'm looking at. For instance, the oil imports.
The question, sorry, the
like
question.
For instance, take 2019.
Sorry,
the oil import.
Sorry, the question is, what can you say about the nature of Nigeria's import as an aspect of openness in the goods market?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think it shows Nigeria is, I think the large increase from 2018 to 2019 is a bit surprising. I'm wondering what caused that huge
So if you are an economist and they ask you, this is apparently what you will say.
No, I mean, just saying it might indicate that there was an increase in domestic income of Nigeria, and the foreign exchange was favorable to induce an increase in imports, according to what we have already discussed.
Thank you, sir. Krona, I didn't call you earlier because your hands were not raised. You didn't raise your hands, you just opened your mic and you are distracting us. We can hear you now.
From the range we checked, that's 2016 to 2020. We can see that Nigeria has been actively involved in more of non-oil imports, and over the years it has increased. I think a little decline when we go to 2020 as against 2019. Yeah, and so there's a larger contrast between the oil transactions and non-oil transactions. That's what I can see.
Okay. Martins.
Okay, so for me, I feel that if you look at the data from 2016, you see that the figures keep rising and rising. So when you go to 2019, whereby the next year, which is 2020, the figure reduced for the non-oil sector, and for the oil sector to the figure reduced. I think that should be attributed to COVID-19, whereby people had to sit at home and not actually engage in activities, whereby using of maybe movement from one place to the other, whereby reduce the consumption of crude oil. and for the other one, for the non-oil sector, they not like import more things at that time. That's what I feel.
Okay. That is who just responded now?
So this means so.
Okay, Boris Martins. Okay.
Yeah.
Samuel Oluwasegun.
Yes, sir. Considering the figures we have here from 2016 to 2020, there is a negative relationship when we consider the figures at 2020. The values of the figures of the oil actually reduced, while that of the non-oil increased. So it's more like dependency ratio on imported goods actually increased on the non-oil, while that of the oil actually reduced.
Okay, thank you. So Farouk.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
From my own perspective, like we can see that, first of all, like the oil imports make up a large percentage of Nigeria's import. Also, there's actually been a trend of like a sort of increasing trend of imports, which shows that Nigeria is actually trying to be more open with their trade with other countries. However, like in 2020, we noticed like a sort of a decline. Well, this decline is not too much given the COVID-19 that actually happened. So it's showing that actually Nigeria is trying to increase its openness and trading with like other countries. So that's what I actually feel.
Okay, so thank you all for your responses. And number one, why I'm saying this is that so that we'll begin to know if you are already prepared for exam or you are not prepared. Don't go and be thinking of asking define import, define export. I will not do that. Okay? But these are the salient things you need to understand. Number one, I appreciate Akin for that beautiful submission. That was beautiful. All right. See, as an economist, it's not sufficient for you to tell me that, oh, import declined between 2019 and 2020. It's not sufficient for you to tell me that, okay? It's not sufficient as an economist. You need to provide justifications for that. You need to provide an explanation for that. You need to tell us why do this or why is this? What really happened? You need to provide reasons. And that was why I first of all showed you the determinants of import. What determines import? That gives you an idea of what constitutes your import. Okay? What determines your import gives you an idea of what constitutes your import. So I love that submission of Aki, and you have 3 good marks for that. 3 beautiful marks. I like that submission. Then for Boris and Farouk, you said initially that the oil sector is a major component of the import, and maybe you meant the non-oil, okay? But you said the oil sector, but you attributed the steep decline in import between 2019 and 2020 because of the COVID pandemic, and same with you, Boris. So both of you have 2 marks. That is good. So that's how many now? That is
Excuse me, sir.
5 people. Okay. So
Excuse me, sir.
what is it, sir?
So I'm using a friend's laptop to go and do the Zoom class. So this name there is not my name. So I'm using a friend's laptop instead because my phone is bad. So my name is Wanko Doka.
Okay. So Wanko. Okay. All right. So that is it. So first of all, it's good because when you see this question, when you see it now, I tabulate Nigeria's import and export, and I tell you to provide justifications on the trend and pattern of Nigeria's import and export. 6 marks. Don't go and start saying which one is import, which one is export. Import is there, export is there now. Don't go and do that. So first, we understand, all right, that there's a steep decline in what? Import. between 2019 and 2020, and that is structural because of what? The changes in the economy, the pandemic, the lockdown, the decline in demand for imported goods. Beautiful. Then look at 2018 and 2019 and look at what happened to non-oil. Look at the increase. The increase is almost 100% from 10.5 trillion to 19 trillion. That is almost 100%. That is almost 100%. That tells you that income cannot increase by that extent. Exchange rate must have been a what? A factor. So let's look at exchange rates within 2019 and 2020, and let's see if that will provide an explanation for it. So this is exchange rate, all right? And then let's look at exchange rate between 2019 and 2020. Look at exchange rate. You see that exchange rate in 2017 was 305, 2018, 306, 2019, 306, okay? 2020, 358. What does that tell you? That tells you that exchange rate has not what? Has not contributed to this particular what? Increase, the steep increase between 2018 and what? And 2019. Then what must have happened? What must have happened again is that the local demand was not sufficient to meet up with the foreign demand. And that is why you have this word steep or massive increase in what? In your imports. So why I'm saying this is that in economics, we have basis for things happening. And if those bases are not there, you then look for other economic justifications. It's not sufficient for you to just say, oh, import increased, import declined. It is more sufficient for you to actually tell us how this occurred. All right, so that is that about your import. So you can see. Then let's look at export. You see export. So in export, you see that is the reverse. In our import, the major share was what? Was non-oil. While the major share was non-oil and the minor was oil. But in our export, the major was what? Was oil. And the minor was what? Was non-oil. That tells you our economy is dependent on primary products. You know, that tells you the openness in the goods market, all right, for Nigerian economy largely favors the exportation of primary products, which is crude oil. While the secondary product, which is the non-oil, look at how it is, okay? And then, of course, the decline from 2019 to 2020 has been attributed to your what? To the corona virus, okay? So look at our import, the categories of our importation. Things we import: food and live animals, beverages and tobacco, crude materials, minerals, animal, vegetables, chemicals, manufactured goods, okay? Machinery and transport, miscellaneous, okay? And let's look at what is the largest share. These two and this are the largest share, okay? If I sum these two, if I sum, okay, I need to enable editing so that I can sum the two. Okay, so if I should sum the two, all right, and then I find the share of that to the total, that should give me an idea. You see, 46%. All right, 46%. Okay, sorry. 46%. That means our importation of non-oil, chemicals, manufactured goods, machineries, transport, and equipment takes up 46% of our total import. That is alarming. That is alarming. And then we look at our exports. Okay. Okay, no, we don't have our exports. Okay. So, but that is a breakdown of our import, and that tells you what largely Nigeria is depending on. Okay. So let's go back to our explanation. So, of course, the total trade is what? The import plus export. That gives you the what? The total what? Trade, okay? For Nigeria, for other economies. So let's look at exchange rate, because openness in goods market, the price of that openness in goods market is your what? Is your exchange rate. And so we know that exchange rate is what? The share or the extent to which a domestic currency can be traded, all right, for a what? A foreign currency. That is what? Exchange rate. You know that. That is not something I should be defining. Now let's look at how we explain exchange rates. In macroeconomics, there are two ways we can explain exchange rate. One, we can explain exchange rate as the price of the domestic currency in terms of the foreign currency. Price of the domestic currency in terms of the foreign currency. Okay, how much dollar can we use to exchange 1 naira? That is that. How much dollar can we use to exchange 1 naira? Okay, that is that. How much dollar can we use to exchange what? 1 naira. All right. Then we can also have the others way round. All right, where we exchange using the price of the foreign currency in terms of the domestic currency. We exchange using the price of the foreign currency with respect to the domestic currency. All right. Under that scenario, okay, we are saying, how many naira will I use to exchange $1? So under that scenario, exchange rate is considered as how many naira do I need to exchange $1? So for Nigeria, this second one is what we use. But in standard textbooks, okay, in Mankiw and Dweeby, Blanchard, Roma, all of those textbooks, what you see is the exchange rate or the rate of my own currency with respect to the foreign currency. My own currency is the Oga. My currency should be the Oga, but not foreign currency. So I ask, how many dollar will I use to exchange my naira? Okay. With that, you should know that the relationship between exchange rates and import or export is depending on how you are interpreting your rates. Please, is depending on how you are what? Interpreting your rates. Then we have convertible and non-convertible currency. When we say convertible currency are those currencies that can easily be exchanged with other currencies. Those are convertible currencies. They can easily be exchanged with other currencies. And then we have non-convertible currency. For non-convertible currency, those currencies cannot be easily exchanged with other what? Currencies. They are only relevant in their own economy. Example is our Naira. It's a non-convertible currency. Because when you take Naira to US or South Africa or China, who needs it? Maybe a Nigerian. You can still exchange it anyway, but you can't just take Naira to US and say you want to buy something. They'll be looking at you, what do you want to buy? Who knows that currency? It's non-convertible. But you can take dollar to China and buy something. Take dollar to UK. Take dollar to America. They will collect. Take dollar to anywhere, they will collect it. Take pounds to anywhere, they will collect it. Take euro to anywhere, they will collect it. They are all convertible currencies. But you can't take Nigeria or Ghana cedi to US and say, I want to buy something. Oh, I want to buy rice. Yeah, it's this. They're looking at you. You want to give me fake currency? So we have convertible and non-convertible. So in exchange rate, we have the nominal exchange rate. Nominal. Your nominal exchange rate is the face value at which your currency is exchanged for the other currency. Your nominal exchange rate is the face value. It's just the rate at which your own currency is exchanged for foreign currency. So for the purpose of our explanation, we will pick or take a particular we'll take a particular decision on how we interpret our exchange rate. Either we decide to interpret our exchange rate as the price of the domestic currency in terms of the foreign currency, or we interpret our exchange rate as the price of the foreign currency in terms of the domestic currency. Which one would you prefer for us to use? Can somebody just speak for the class? Which one would you prefer for us to use so that we can use that and stick with that?
So let's just use as the price of the foreign currency in terms of domestic currency.
Price of the foreign currency in terms of domestic currency. That's number 2. Any contrary opinion?
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Obarome, do you have any contrary opinion?
Sir, because I have a question just in terms of the exchange rates.
Okay, wouldn't you wait for me to first of all explain deeper, then maybe that question might have been answered.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we are picking number 2. That means we are considering exchange rates, okay, with respect to the price of the foreign currency in terms of the domestic currency. That means we are looking at Naira to dollar, which is how Nigeria interprets their exchange rate. But in US, in UK, and other parts of the country, and other parts of the world, it is number 1 they use interpreting the exchange rate. In textbook is number 1 they use. So that when you see exchange rate appreciation or depreciation or whatever, you should know how you interpret it. It's very important, please.
So I need you.
Okay. All right. So, Barome, your hands are still raised. Are you still asking your question?
Yes, sir, because I don't think you're going to further explain it.
Okay. What's the question?
Okay, so my question is just why in Nigeria we decide to use the second one if there's like a common way of interpreting it, because I thought I knew that when you have like a stronger currency, that's usually like your base currency in terms of exchange rates.
Okay, all right. Lawson, your hands are raised.
Yes, sir, I raised my hand. It was towards the same question that Toby was asking. I assume that foreign countries using the opposite of what Nigeria uses as because their own currency is stronger towards other currencies.
Okay, so let me just provide an answer to that, okay? And we can, so that's a beautiful question anyway, a very beautiful question. Now, when I say we are using the first one, so the first one is simply saying, what is the rate at which, all right, a dollar, what's the rate at which our naira will be exchanged for $1? So under that scenario, we're asking a question: how many dollars is needed for a naira? That is the first case. Then for the second case is how many naira, all right, how many naira is needed for a dollar, all right? So let's take a decision. Let's assume that exchange rates, okay, the way Nigeria interprets it is 400 naira to $1, 400 naira to $1. So that means for this first question, the answer to this first question, all right, is going to be what? How many dollars do I need for a naira? That's going to be 1 over what? 400. And that's going to be equals to 1 over 400. That's going to be equals to 0.0025. Then for this, is just going to be what? 400. So you see that because our currency is highly depreciated, just like what Lawson said, why should I be saying my exchange rate is 0.0025? Because what that means is I need $0.0025 to get 1 naira, which is not even up to a cent. Assuming the rate, okay, is say 0.15 cents. That is $0.15. That is 15 cents. That's what 15 cents. That is beautiful. I can use this particular ratio. But you see that for this one that is 0.0025, it does not make sense. It's not even up to a cent. It's not even up to what? A cent. So Nigeria, the best is to convert it and use it at the inverted way. For example, euro is stronger than dollars. Pounds is stronger than all. It is easier to do that particular exchange rate that way. But by the time you use this for Nigeria, definitely. So I believe that has answered the question. All right. Okay. So we would stick, has that answered the question, please?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So we would stick to our first decision that we are going to use the second one, the price of the foreign currency with respect to the domestic currency. So I've explained convertible and non-convertible, then the nominal exchange rate. Okay. So I will explain the real exchange rate. When we talk about the real exchange rate, what do we mean? In real exchange rate, we are not considering how much do I need, how much naira do I need to get $1? No. But I'm asking a simple question. What is the rate of me exchanging the price of my domestic product with that of a foreign product. That is the real exchange rate. Real exchange rate. What is the price of me exchanging my domestic product for the foreign product? Remember, we have taken a position that we are looking at the price of the foreign currency. Sorry, I'm going to reverse my decision before. We're looking at the price of the foreign currency in terms of the domestic currency. If that is the case, that means for real exchange rate, I will be asking how or what is the rate at which I will exchange the price of a foreign product with respect to the price of a domestic product. So in real exchange rate, we consider goods and not just currency. In real exchange rate, we consider what? Goods and not just currency. Back to our analysis. Remember, we have taken this particular position. All right? Sorry, we have taken this particular position. How many naira is needed for a dollar? That's our position. How many naira is needed for a dollar? So our question for real exchange rate will be, what is the rate at which the price of a domestic product can be exchanged for a foreign product? Let's take an example. So if, for example, Nigeria has a domestic product, and that domestic product, what is Nigeria producing? No, cable wire. Cable wire, okay? Of course, we know that Nigerian cable wire is better than China wire or other types of wire. For those that are into building, Coleman wire, AY comedian used to advertise it when they did that comedy show. So cable wire, that is what Nigeria is producing. Okay, and this cable wire in Nigeria, the price is 10,000 naira. All right. The next thing we look or we consider again is in US. We look at US. What can we see from US that they are producing that is somehow equivalent to cable wire, not something high? All right. So for cable wire, what can we say is equivalent in US that they are producing that we can use? Anybody?
Electric bulb.
Electric bulb. Electric bulb is a bit cheaper compared to this cable wire. Let's look at something that is a bit within that particular range.
Electrical converters.
Electrical what?
Converter.
Okay, or should we
Inverter.
Extension socket.
No, that one is also cheap. Extension socket is also cheap. Let's consider stabilizer. Let's consider stabilizer. Abi? Stabilizer is okay.
Yes, sir.
So, stabilizer in US. Let's say in US, the stabilizer is 100. No. Let's say in US, the stabilizer
$50.
$50 in US. Stabilizer is $50. Okay. Now remember that our exchange rate we are dealing with is what? How many naira do I need for a dollar? Abi? That's our exchange rate. How many naira do I need for a dollar? So let's assume 400 naira, all right, is equals to $1. So my nominal exchange rate is 400 naira to a what? A dollar. That's my nominal exchange rate, 400 naira to a dollar. The next question is, what is my real exchange rate? Remember that the nominal exchange rate is how many naira do I need for a dollar? The real exchange.
Okay. Please, who is this talking?
All right. So remember that for the nominal exchange rate is how many naira do I need for a dollar? The real exchange rate will now be how many naira do I need, all right, to exchange my cable wire for stabilizer, to exchange my cable wire for stabilizer. So the next thing I will ask myself is, if I have 400 naira to a dollar, all right, the next question is, how much will I need to exchange this particular currency, okay, to naira? First, I will ask myself, what is the price of Nigerian goods in naira? What is what? The price of Nigerian what? Goods in what? In naira. What is the price of Nigerian what? Nigerian goods in what? In naira. Okay. That is equals to what? 10,000. And that's equals to P. That should be P. Okay. The next question I'm going to ask, all right, what is the price of Nigerian goods in dollar? What is the price of Nigerian goods in dollar? That is the next. So the next question is, what is the price of Nigerian goods in dollar? What is the price of Nigerian goods in dollars? Okay. The price of Nigerian goods in dollar. Remember, it is 10,000 naira. What will be the price in dollars? Remember that for me to exchange 10,000 naira to dollar, since 400 naira is to a dollar, what happens? The price will be what? 10,000 over what? 400. And that is equals to what? 10,000 over 400. That's equals to what? 25 what? $25. And that's equals to what? P over what? Over E. Abi, where E is equals to what? Where E is equals to what? Exchange rate. All right. Where E is equals to exchange rate. So what is the price of Nigerian goods in naira? 10,000 naira. I call that P. What is the price of Nigerian goods in dollars? That's 10,000 naira over 400 naira. I call that what? $25, which is P over E. The next question I will now ask, which is my real exchange rate, okay, is what is the so the next question I'm going to now ask is, What is the price of, sorry, the next question I'm going to ask is, what is the price of Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods? What is the price of Nigerian goods in terms of what? USA what? Goods. What is the price of Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods? That is, what is the rate at which Nigerian goods will be with relation to US goods? That will be equals to what? $25 over what? $50. And that's equals to what? 0.2. Sorry, 0.5. 25 over 50. That's what? 0.5. Abi? That's 0.5. So that means for real exchange rate is going to be what? 1 naira. Okay, sorry. 0.5 naira will be equals to what? $1. This will be the real exchange rate. And how did we solve that? We solved that by doing what? P over E times P star. P star. Let me call what is the price of Nigerian goods in dollars, blah, blah, blah. Then what is the price? Oh, I've missed one again. What is the price of USA goods in dollars? Okay, that is equals to what? $50. And that should be what? I call this P star. So, and that's equals to E P times E, all right, over what? P star. So you see that for nominal exchange rate, it is 400 naira to $1. But for the real exchange rate, it is 50 kobo to $1. First of all, look for two goods that can be compared. Okay? Look for two goods that can be compared. The first goods we looked for was cable wire. In Nigeria, cable wire is 10,000 naira. The exchange rate we have nominal is 400 naira to $1. If I want to exchange naira and dollar, in USA, stabilizer, how much is stabilizer? $50 is stabilizer. Stabilizer is what? $50. What is the price of Nigerian goods in naira? First of all, get that. That is 10,000. That is P. Call it P. What is the price of Nigerian goods in dollars? For me to get the price of Nigerian goods in dollars, that would be, I need to change that 10,000 naira using the nominal exchange rate. That's 10,000 over 400. That's what? $25. The next will now be, what is the price of USA goods in what? In dollars. That becomes what? $50 because you're given the price. The next question is, what will now be the price of Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods? Since you've gotten the price of Nigerian goods in dollars, which is $25, but that USA goods is $50, the exchange rate will now be what? $25 over $50. That's what? 0.50 naira, 50 kobo to what? $1. In this real exchange rate, you will discover that we were unable to match the goods in terms of value. That's a major flaw. But I was able to understand the price of Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods. Okay? Now, remember, this is case 1. No, this is case 2. This is case 2. When we considered what? Naira to $1. That's case 2. Let's now consider case 1, okay, where we have dollar to naira, and let's look at the formula and see if the formula will change. So case 1, let's look at case 1. I'm repeating this scenario now, okay, and we are going to have case 1. Case 1 is what? Dollar to naira, okay. How many dollars do I need to get 1 naira? How many dollars do I need to get 1 what? Naira. Let's maintain our analysis. Cable wire in Nigeria is 10,000 naira. The exchange rate will no longer be 400 naira to what? $1. It will now be what? 0.0025 to what? To 1. $0.0025 to what? To 1 naira. That will now be the exchange rate now. Abi 1/400. It will now be $0.0025 to 1 naira. That's our normal exchange rate. Stabilizer, the price in USA is what? 50 naira. So I asked the question, what is the price of Nigerian goods in naira? 10,000 naira. That is P. The next question is, what is the price of Nigerian goods in dollar? It will no longer be 10,000/400, but it becomes 10,000 times what? 0.0025. And that will still give you $50. But this formula is no longer P/E, but it's now P times E. The next question is, what is the price of USA goods in dollars? That is $50. We have that, which is P star. The next question will now be, what is the price of Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods, which is still $25 over $50, that's 0.5. And that tells you it is what? 0.5 naira to $1. That is our real exchange rate. But the formula for the real exchange rate is no longer P/E times P star. It is now P times E over what? P star. That tells you that depending on how you are interpreting your nominal, your exchange rate relation, depending on how you are interpreting it, that will determine the formula you are what? You are using. We have to understand that. That will determine the formula we are what? We are using. Any question, please? So for nominal and for real exchange rate, if you decide to use case 1, this is what you get. If you decide to use case 2, this is also what you will get. Any question? Or you understand? Please, if you have a question, you place the button up so I can call you. So, because if everybody opens up their mic and start asking questions, it will be challenging. So, any question? Ishola, you already put your hand. So, you already unmute yourself. So, the question, please. Ishola, your question, please.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Your question, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Sir, can you take the case 2 again, please?
Case 2 again, okay. All right, okay.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, your question. Your question. Elizabeth, your question, please. Elizabeth, your question. Elizabeth, your question. Okay, you're not ready. Boris Martins, your question.
Okay, sir. I didn't really get that case one. Can you go back again?
Okay, case one and case two. Debbie, your question.
Good evening, sir. My question is the the 50 kobo to $1. Can you please explain how we can relate it to goods, like in reality, how we can relate it to, because I don't understand, like for nominal exchange rate is 400 naira, then for real exchange rate I don't really understand.
Okay. Thank you. Techno of the 3 plus. Please make sure you change your name when you log in. Techno 3 plus. Your question.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, sir, I've seen it. I understand on case 2. I wanted to ask a question about case 2.
Okay. So let's go back. Let me explain. Case 2, we agree that case 2 is naira to dollar, naira to $1. That's our case 2. All right. We agree that it is naira to $1. And that's why we said it is 400 naira to $1, which is nominal exchange rate. The nominal exchange rate is the rate at which, this time around, the rate at which my domestic currency is exchanged for foreign currency. That's my analysis here. The real exchange rate is the rate at which Nigerian goods is exchanged, the price of Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods. See, there's another one that is exchange rate parity. That one is different. Exchange rate parity is saying, look at what exchange rate parity is saying. Exchange rate parity is saying, so that you won't put it in your head and think that's what I'm saying. Exchange rate parity is saying, assuming we have Coke, all right? Assuming we have Coke, you can see this Coke, okay? Can you see this Coke?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Exchange rate parity is saying, assuming we have this Coke, okay? If we have this Coke in Nigeria, how much is the Coke? Say it is 200 naira. In USA, how much is the Coke? Say it is $2. All right. Exchange rate parity is saying, what is the rate at which I will exchange my naira such that the price of this Coke here in Nigeria is the same thing as the price of this Coke in US. So I am not gaining or losing because I'm exchanging. So if the exchange rate parity is maybe say 200 naira or 200 naira to $1, what that means is if I have 200 naira, I can buy this Coke. And if I get to America, if I exchange that my 200 naira to $1, I can use that same $1 to buy this Coke. That's exchange rate parity. So, first of all, exchange rate might not be 200 naira to $1. Exchange rate might be 400 naira to $1. But that means if I have 200 naira, I can buy one of this Coke. If I have 400 naira, I can buy one of this Coke. Provided this Coke is $1 in America. Provided this Coke is 200 naira in Nigeria. Provided the exchange rate is 200 naira to $1. But if exchange rate is 400 naira to $1, and this Coke is 200 naira here, while the Coke in America is $1, that means for me to buy this Coke in America, I need 400 naira. But for me to buy this Coke in Nigeria, I need 200 naira. That is our exchange rate what? parity. But for exchange rate, the real exchange rate is asking a question: what will be the price of Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods, not USA currency? So that means I must have two goods, Nigerian goods and USA goods. What will be the price of this Nigerian goods in terms of USA goods? In terms of USA goods. Are we together? So for us to do that, we just need three things. One, the price of the goods in Nigeria, Nigerian goods. What is the price in Nigeria in Naira? Two, that foreign goods we have in abroad, what is the price? Three, what is our exchange rate? Very important. We know that our exchange rate is 400 naira to $1. This is defined, this is known. So the question we ask ourselves is, what is the price of Nigerian goods in Naira? Is 10,000 naira, call it P. The next question is, what is the price of Nigerian goods in dollars? I need to change that 10,000 naira to dollar. But in this, our exchange rate, it is Naira to dollar. So I is 400 naira to dollar. That means with that 10,000, it becomes 10,000 naira over 400. That is 10,000 over 400. That is P over E, P over the exchange rate. That is $25. So this Nigerian goods, which is Coke, is 10,000 naira here in Nigeria. I mean, this Nigerian goods, which is cable, this cable wire, is 10,000 naira here. But if you take this 10,000 naira in America, it is $25. So since I have $25, these goods here, Coke, this cable, this is cable, let me assume this is cable, is 10,000 naira. But in America, if I take that 10,000 naira, it becomes $25 there. In that goods I want to exchange, remember, I want to exchange this Coke, this cable for stabilizer. If I carry this cable, I change the money, it is $25. But the stabilizer there is $50. That means I need two of this cable for me to be able to get what? One stabilizer. That's the meaning. That is my real exchange rate. This is more or less like barter system, trade by barter. Barter system. How many cables do I need to get one stabilizer there? With this real exchange rate, it's telling me I need two cables to get what? One stabilizer. Because the price of this cable in Nigeria is 10,000 naira. But if I exchange this 10,000 naira, it becomes $25. But the price of stabilizer there is $50. That means I need two of this cable to get what? 21 stabilizer. That is my real exchange rate. This case is Naira to dollar. Let's look at the other case. The other case is dollar to Naira. Meaning $1 is $1 to Naira is $0.0025 to a Naira. That's my nominal exchange rate. Again, this cable, Coleman wire cable, how much is it? 10,000 naira. What will be the price of these Nigerian goods in dollars? It will be 10,000 times 0.025. No longer 10,000 over 0.025 because my exchange rate is dollar to Naira. So in that case, it is P times E. I will still get the same answer. Just as the formula changes, P times E, that becomes what? $25. That means this cable now, the price is 10,000 naira. The dollar conversion is $25. But I want to exchange this cable with stabilizer. How much is stabilizer in America? $50. But this cable is $25. I will need two of these cables to be able to exchange what? To $1. So it becomes 50 kobo to $1. In other words, it becomes, in other words, it becomes 2 cables to 1 stabilizer. Or remember, this case is naira to dollar, naira to $1, or 0.5 stabilizer to 1 cable. That means if you want 1 cable, I will give you half stabilizer. Just that we can't supply half stabilizer. You can't cut it, but that's the meaning. So this real exchange rate is looking at barter system. That means for someone to be willing to exchange, he must have calculated the real exchange rate. Question, please. So when I give you the question, given the price of this is this, the price of this is this, considering our exchange rate to be this, calculate the real exchange rate. Don't go and tell me, Shema Kawasha, or he has come again. Question. Do you understand it now? People are tired. Debbie, question.
Sir, since we divided the $25 and the $50 is divided in dollars,
yes,
then the 0.5 is it not supposed to be in dollar?
0. Yes, 0.5. Yeah, 0.5. Thank you.
That's where the confusion is coming in, because like naira to a dollar.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So let me correct it now. How do I correct this now? Okay, I've typed already. So let me delete. No. Okay, so let me correct. Yes, thank you for that particular so thank you for that particular so that's 0.5. So that's going to be 0.5
Sunday.
$1 naira. Yes. Is that better now? Is that better?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. That shows
No, it's still in naira. It's still in naira.
No, I'm changing this one now.
Okay, sir.
Yes, who has? Okay, I'm coming, please. So that's going to be dollars, $0.5 to 1 naira. Yes. So who answered that question? Who is the person?
It's Deborah Olasomi.
Ola what?
Olasomi, Deborah.
Are you in education?
Economics major.
Ola what?
Olasomi, Olasomi.
Yeah. So you have 3 marks for answering.
Thank you, sir.
Question. Yeah. So please, Ore, Moyo, people have called for mark. 2 people before. Boris, which is one Doka, Akin, Farouk, and Deborah. That shows you are following. Thank you. God bless you. Like intelligent people. All right. Questions? Okay. So we all know book. Thank God. Sorry that your data is going. I wish I have money. I will give you data.
Excuse me, sir. You've not explained the question in case 1. I asked for case 1.
Oh, I've explained. Okay, sorry. Case 1. Okay, so let me explain case one again. So in case one, we are looking at dollar to naira, which is our interpretation, which means I need $0.0025 to 1 naira. My cable wire in Nigeria is 10,000 naira. Let me make an example. This is a cable. The stabilizer I want to exchange this cable with is $50. The next question I ask myself is, what is the price of the Nigerian goods in naira? And that's 10,000 naira. The next question is, what is the price of the Nigerian goods in dollars? If I exchange this 10,000 naira, okay, what will it be in dollars? Remember, I've done my exchange rate to be dollar to a naira, which is 0.025 to 1 naira. And I have 10,000 naira. The exchange rate will now be 10,000 naira times 0.025, which is P times E, the exchange rate, that's PE. Then the next question is, what is now the price of that stabilizer, that USA goods in dollars? It is $50. Then the next question is, what will be the price of this Nigerian goods, this cable? If I want to exchange it for USA goods, what will be the price? Since I've converted this to dollar, it's $25. And there, that stabilizer is $50. Of course, that's going to be what? $25 over what? $50. Which is P times E over what? P star. That is the formula. So, but for the first case, for case two, because of this exchange rate that was of this nature, all right, what happened? I needed to divide 10,000 naira by 400. But because I've converted this, it's just 10,000 times 0.025. Has that been able to answer the question?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right, okay. So I'm sorry, everyone. Maybe I'm taking your time to really explain. I'm sorry, please. I should have just talked to you and go. I'm sorry. I don't have to make sure you understand. Sorry for your data. I'm sorry, please. But I don't have to explain so that you understand. Please, I'm begging you. And I pray and I hope you do understand. Okay, so I think so that is the nominal exchange rate and the real exchange rate. Okay, the nominal exchange rate and the real exchange rate. All right, and that is why I explained. So you can see it. First of all, price of Nigerian goods in naira, price of Nigerian goods in dollars, that's E times P. So this formula is for case one. This formula is for case one. Assuming it is case two, then you should know that it's the other way around. Okay, so you should take note of that. So let's look at fixed exchange rate, flexible exchange rate, types of exchange rate policies. So for every economy, there are two types of exchange rate policies they take up. One, it can be fixed exchange rate. Two, it can be flexible exchange rate. Under fixed exchange rate, all right, the monetary authority decides to peg the exchange rate at a particular rate. And they control it, they peg the exchange rate at a particular rate. And that is how it will be. They tell you the exchange rate is this particular rate, and that is how it will be. So under that case, forces of demand for foreign goods and supply of our domestic goods does not determine the exchange rate. All right. So they stated that our exchange rate is this particular amount and it is fixed. That is fixed exchange rate. But in flexible exchange rate, you allow the market forces to actually determine the exchange rate. You allow the demand for foreign products and the demand supply of your local product to determine the exchange rate. Remember that when you supply your product, which is export, that is an injection, you earn money, they pay you, you collect money. That's foreign exchange earnings, you get more money. But when you supply, when you buy, import, you are paying out. Okay, that's withdrawal. The forces of the two will determine the exchange rate. So, for example, if we're operating in a flexible exchange rate system, then what happens? We're allowing the demand and supply of our currencies to determine our exchange rates. Let's take, for example, all right, you see that in Nigeria, for example, if Nigeria depends so much on importation, remember our currency is not convertible, is non-convertible currency. Okay, so this is CBN. All right, CBN will help us to interface. CBN sells crude oil to, let's assume, USA. Remember, it's not only USA, we have other economies, so many economies. But let's assume CBN sells crude oil to USA. And so when CBN sells crude oil to USA, USA will pay them. Ideally, USA is supposed to pay them in Naira because CBN's jurisdiction is Naira. That's our currency. We pride in our currency. USA's currency is dollar. They pride in their currency. USA is the one that wants to buy something from us. They don't have it. That's why they are buying from us. So they come to buy our crude oil. They should pay us our Naira, which we are priding with. But because our Naira is not convertible, one. Two, because we need dollars. CBN will tell USA, please, will pay us in dollars. CBN will give, USA will give CBN, let's say, $40 million. Then we have businessmen in Nigeria, Cubana them, Otedola, all of them, your family, your brothers, all those businessmen. I want to import Igbo men, importer and exporter, importer and exporter. All of them want to import goods. These are the businessmen. But remember, they are going to where? To USA to demand to buy those goods. When I mean USA, I mean every other part of the world, China and all of that. So they are going to USA to buy their goods. Okay? This Cuban and all of them, they will come and meet CBN. Please, oh, we need dollar. We have your Naira that you are approving, but we cannot carry Naira to America. We need what? Dollars. The CBN will ask them, how much do you need, though, for the goods you want to import? They will tell them we need $200 million. CBN will start shouting, eh? Where are we going to see $200 million from? Why? Because CBN only has $40 million. They received from USA through what? Foreign exchange earnings. CBN, if it is flexible exchange rate, CBN will now increase the rates so that it will reduce the pressure on Cubana and Co. Because if Cubana wanted to import goods before, okay, and exchange rate is say 10 Naira to $1. Let me say 10 Naira to $1. That means Cubana and the family, everybody, they need 200 million times 10. And 200 million times 10, that means they need 2 billion Naira. They will carry 2 billion Naira to go and meet CBN because they need $200 million. But because CBN now says that, hey, we cannot meet this $200 million, so, okay, because of that pressure, exchange rate will now increase from 10 Naira to, say, I'm assuming, okay, it shouldn't be, but let's say to 20 Naira. That means with these $2 billion now, it will no longer bring 100 million. It can only bring what? It can no longer bring 200 million. It can only bring what? 100 what? 100 million. So what can we say to this? What we can say to this is that what? Because of the pressure on demand for foreign currency and the supply of that foreign currency, that determines our exchange rate. That is flexible. But if it is fixed, CBN has $40 million. They are demanding for $200 million. And CBN has vowed that exchange rate will always be 10 naira to $1. What do you think CBN will do? CBN will now go to their foreign reserve. Remember, not every day CBN makes 40 million, that Cubana and Co needs 200 million. There are days CBN will make 40 million. Cubana and Co needs only 10 million. There are days CBN will make 100 million. Cubana and Co, they need only 30 million. So those excesses will go to what? Our foreign reserve, which is in foreign currency. So CBN will now resort to their foreign reserve in order to do what? Collect more dollars and augment this $40 million so they can meet the foreign demand. This has been the pressure CBN is facing. The third type of exchange rate policy is the managed flexible exchange rate policy. Under this case, CBN says, please, we are going to peg some goods. There are some things you need. Those things you need, please, go and meet commercial banks. Go and meet commercial banks for those things. Commercial banks will come and exchange from CBN at the rate of 305 naira. There are some things you need, please, so we are not going to supply. Please go and meet Aboki, that's BDC, Bureau de Change. What happens? Two people are now the people supplying dollar, Bureau de Change and who? Commercial banks. Some of those goods you go and meet commercial banks, they are BTA, traveling PTA, personal traveling allowance, BTAs, business traveling allowance, school fees, scholarship, all those things you want to pay. You will come to commercial bank, they will give you at 305 naira. But you that want to import toothpick, import crude oil, import this one, import, and you come and meet Aboki. Look at the system. Aboki's own will now be 480 naira to $1. You see, we are now having two exchange rates. So look at what now break the camel's back. CBN now discovered that some of these Aboki, CBN gives them the dollar. They audit, they hide it, because they know that all these Igbo people will come and meet them for dollar. They will hide it and be increasing the price voluntarily. Okay? Again, commercial banks receive dollars from CBN through leakages. Okay? So because of market imperfection, because of leakages and auditing, all right? Look at those three things: market imperfection, leakages, and auditing. What happens? The central bank had to ban BDC. And so we no longer have two tiers of market. The second tier, which is the Bureau de Change, they were cut off. That's what is happening now. And so they now said, CBN said, if you need your dollar, whatever you need, go and meet commercial banks. That tells you an explanation, all right, of this particular fixed exchange rate and flexible exchange rate. So the managed flexible exchange rate is the one I just explained. They will use different payment restrictions to curtail the demand for exchange rate. Then changes in exchange rate can be two types, two forms. One, it can be deliberate. Two, it can be due to market forces. When it is deliberate, that is when we talk about devaluation or revaluation. That is when it is deliberate. Because it is fixed, CBN or the Monetary Authority now intentionally adjusts the exchange rate So if they intentionally adjust the exchange rate, it can either be devaluation or revaluation. Note, when we are looking at case 2, which is naira to dollar, increase in the exchange rate is called devaluation. Intentional or deliberate increase in that exchange rate is devaluation. When we are talking about what? Case 2, naira to dollar. Once you increase the exchange rate, meaning before it was 400 naira to a dollar, Monetary Authority now deliberately increase it to 450 naira to a dollar. In that case, that is devaluation, increase in exchange rate. While a deliberate decrease in that exchange rate under that scenario, when CBN, all right, deliberately say no, it's no longer 400 to a dollar, it's now 350 naira to a dollar. That means your domestic currency has gained momentum. In that case, that is revaluation. But when you use case 1 is the other way around. In case 1, increase in exchange rate is revaluation, while decrease in exchange rate is devaluation, because in case 1, you are saying how many dollar to a naira. In that case, it is $0.0025 to 1 naira. When you increase it, it is no longer $0.0025 to a naira. Maybe it's now $0.3 to a naira. Under that scenario, what happens? That is called what? Exchange rate what? Revaluation, because you now need more dollar to get naira. But if it is a decrease in exchange rate, that means you need less dollar to get the 1 naira you are getting before. In that case, it is what? Devaluation. When it is not deliberate and it is due to market forces, devaluation becomes depreciation and revaluation becomes appreciation. So you need to, so the same explanation for devaluation becomes the same explanation for what? For depreciation. Only that it is not deliberate. The market forces led to that. While the same explanation for revaluation is the same explanation for appreciation, only that the market forces led to that. So this tells you the different exchange rate policies that have been practiced in Nigeria. Okay, between 1959 till date. Between 1959 down to 1985, they practiced fixed exchange rate system. They pegged it to a dollar, they pegged it to dollar, pegged it to gold, pegged it to other currencies, and that was that. While after 1986, during that SAP, it was now flexible exchange rates. And 1994, they returned to fixed exchange rate when Abacha took over. Okay? And then 1999, when Obasanjo came, it went back to flexible. So it has been flexible, managed, flexible, and the rest. This also gives you a chart of our exchange rate between 1960 and 2020. And you look at it. Remember, we are looking at case 2. So look at 1960 to 1985. When it was fixed, it was 0.69 naira to $1. You see, naira get power past dollar that time. Between 1986 and 1993, it became 9.37 naira to a dollar. Between 1994 and 1998, when it was fixed, it became 21 naira 0.91 on average. Note, is on average. Between 1999 and 2008, 119 naira. And between 2009 and 2020, $220. That's an overview. So exchange rate maintained an increasing momentum with significant impact after the global financial crisis. That's implication. While the first phase of the exchange rate regime was favorable. And then we have the flexible exchange rate regime is more volatile in the fixed regime. So Now let's look at trade. Remember I was telling you about that trade, total trade. Okay, this is a chart of it that I showed you in the Excel. All right. Now let's look at openness in financial markets. We will soon be through. Sorry. Openness in financial market. Under openness in financial market, remember, I said in the financial market, we are looking at outflows of assets. Those assets can be what? Portfolios. Those assets can be what? Capital or fixed assets, capitals. So the account that explains this particular transaction is our balance of payments. In the balance of payments, we have two types of accounts, three types anyway: the current account, the capital account, and the official financing. The current account is where you register your transactions in goods and services. The goods is visible, you can see it, all this your trade, export, import. While the services is invisible. That's where you have all this your consultancy fee, consultancy fees, and there are many. I can't really remember. And insurance is even written, the insurance, freight, tourist expenditures, they are all invisibles. While the capital account is where you have your fiscal assets transfer. Short term is the portfolio investment, you can withdraw it easily. While the long term is the foreign direct what? Investment. Okay. Now, your current account and capital account, you net it out. The difference becomes your official what? Financing. That's your difference. Your official financing, that becomes your what? Your difference. Okay. So those are the elements in your current account and capital account. Now, in your balance of payments, it can be favorable and it can be unfavorable. You know all of this. When it is favorable, that means your receipt is more than your what? Payment. And when it's unfavorable, in that case, your receipt is less than your payment. Okay, you know all of that. I don't need to explain that. So let's look at causes of exchange rates changes. One, what causes exchange rate changes? One, differing rate of inflation. When domestic prices keeps increasing, it affects your exchange rates because your prices become more expensive, and as you are exchanging it, it becomes more. So differing rate of inflation affects your what? Your exchange rate, your differing rate of what? Inflation. Two, capital movement. When you have different forms of capital movement, illicit and licit. Licit is the known one, capital flows. Illicit are all those ones: trade misinvoicing, corruption, embezzlement of funds, you transfer it abroad. Okay? You make money here in Nigeria, you decide to go to Dubai to go and spend it. Why? That's capital movement. You hustle and make money in Nigeria. Your next destination is, oh, I want to check out in Dubai, in Paris. Your next thing is to buy Rolls Royce. Your next is Lamborghini. They are good anyway. Me, I will buy. But that is a cause of exchange rate changes. So you see, because you made those income, you decide to spend them abroad, everything. You build a house, everything from beginning to the end is imported, except your block, your cement, even cement, okay, except your cement. Everything, door, window, zinc, everything is imported. Capital movement. Causes of exchange rate changes again is structural changes. Structural changes. Remember Nigeria, if you see when exchange rate was very good, those 1960 to 1985, you will notice that we were agrarian economy then, when we were exporting most of those cocoa and cashew and oil and all of that. But when the structure of the economy changed to oil, everything collapsed. Remember your real sector. Whenever there's a structural change, exchange rate will be affected. All right. Now, let me go back to that exchange rate so I can explain the Marshall-Lerner condition and the J curve. Sorry, forgive me. Okay, so having said this, now we are taking a position, all right? Having said this, we are taking a position, all right, that export and exchange rate, how will it be? Remember, our position is we are taking case 2. And case 2 is what? Naira to dollar, 400 naira to dollar. Under that scenario, okay, export and exchange rate, will it have a positive impact or a negative impact? It will have a positive impact under that scenario. You know what I'm saying? So when you open textbook, in standard textbook, this will be negative. But because we are reversing our analysis that it is dollar, naira to dollar, that is why it is positive. While import will be negative. Why is it positive? When you increase exchange rate, that is what? Depreciation. When you devalue your currency, your goods become cheaper. When your goods become cheaper, export increases. And when you devalue your currency, import becomes expensive. When import becomes expensive, what happens? Import decline. That means in your model of Y is equals to C plus I plus G, all right, plus X minus what? M. In that model, remember, if export increases, what happens? GDP will what? Will increase in this model. But if import increases, what happens? GDP will what? Will reduce. Okay. So let's now assume we devalue our currency, exchange rate depreciation. Exchange rate what? Depreciation. If we devalue our currency, what will happen? When we devalue the currency, that means increase in exchange rate will cause what? Output to increase because export will increase. So devaluation will cause what? Export to what? To increase. While output will what? Increase. And so, but an increase in exports, which is devaluation, will cause imports to what? To decline. All right. So what does that tell you? It means they both have opposing effects on the economy. When exchange rate, you increase exchange rates, what happens to export? Export will increase. Okay. And in that case, import declines. But remember, when you devalue your currency and export increases, that output that has increased will come to the domestic income and cause what? Increase in domestic income, which will now cause what? Import to what? Increase. So initially, when you increase devalued exchange rate, first, exports increased, impacting on foreign income output. Because output has increased, import is also what? Increasing. That means there are tendencies for exports to increase and import to also increase, making this net not to be beneficial on what? On output. For exchange rate to now be beneficial, it means the elasticity of export with response to changes in exchange rate must be more than the elasticity of import with response to changes in exchange rate. So that when you net the two, this will increase. Because if not, if this was 100, export was 100 minus 60, the net export there is 40. But if you don't be careful, when you increase the value exchange rate, export will increase to 120. Instead of import to decline, import might also increase to 80. If that happens, what can you say? You will see that although you have depreciated the economy, but there is no change in net export, the economy still remains as what? 40. That means for exchange rate depreciation that will cause this 100 to move to 120, the increase in import must not be the same with the same impact. This can move from 60 to 70, so that 120 minus 70 becomes what? 50. So that means for exchange rate depreciation to be beneficial, the elasticity of export to changes in exchange rate must be more than the elasticity of import to changes in what? Exchange rate. That is the Marshallina condition. If you plot it on a graph, you have the J curve, which is somehow like this. The J curve, which is somehow, I'm trying to draw the J curve, which is somehow like this. Okay, that explains that. So, in closing, what will be your choice between domestic and foreign assets? The answer remains that domestic assets is better than foreign assets. However, for developing economies, we have scenarios where domestic assets are of less quality compared to what? To the foreign assets. Okay? Having said that, that's a choice between domestic and foreign assets. The next is latest developments in exchange rates. Latest developments in exchange rates. And I asked that question. Bitcoin, okay? Cryptocurrency, is it beneficial to Nigeria? The ban by the central bank, is it a good one? I need your opinion. Now, please talk like an economist from what we have explained. Okay, talk like an economist. Give me economic reasons why it is good that they banned it. Give me economic reasons why it is bad that they banned it. Okay? Do we have questions? First. Do we have questions? Raise your hand if you have questions from what I've taught. Foluke.
Good evening, sir, and good evening, everybody. My question is, sir, what's the difference between flexible exchange rate and floating exchange rate? Is there any differences or are they similar?
I don't think there is any. It's just rates. When it's floating, you're allowing the forces of demand and supply to determine it. And if it's flexible also, that means it can change. So there's no major difference between the two. So,
yeah, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, so you talked about the ban on bureau de change when you were explaining, sir. Yeah, so I have a question though.
Okay.
This is not the first time CBN would be banning bureau de change. So the first one they did that in 2016. And then like slightly after that, we saw the exchange rate depreciate from about 200 and something, 219 naira or thereabouts, to about 495 naira before government had to reinstate the change and stabilize things. I think it was stated that this was due to the holding of exchange rates by the private banks and all. So yeah, government is adopting the same policy. Don't you think this would be the outcome? Do you think this would be the outcome, sir? As regards your advanced knowledge, yeah, do you think this would be the outcome, or we should be expecting something different? Because even as that, when governments banned Bureau de change, we saw the exchange rate also depreciate from about 500 and something. It moved to like 520 something before it started. Is it coming down now? I don't think so. So, sir, what's your perspective? What's your opinion?
Okay, now the basic thing we need to understand is that number one, the major reason exchange rates keeps depreciating, okay, is because of our foreign exchange earnings. Our foreign exchange earnings, all right, once is declining, exchange rate will be impacted. And because we are a mono economy, majorly we sell crude oil. So once the prices of crude oil declines, our foreign exchange earnings will decline. Once our foreign exchange earnings declines, then exchange rate will be impacted. So the question is this: there are sharp practices in the BDC, okay? There are unfaithful declarations, unfaithfulness in the BDC. But that sharp practices is not substantial enough to suppress the pressure from foreign exchange earnings due to crude oil price volatility. That's when crude oil price is highly fluctuating. What does that tell you? What that tells you is that what happened in that 2016, 17 is this is it. Yes, the CBN banned BDC because of the sharp practices, but the crude oil prices were falling, impacting on the foreign exchange earnings, reducing the dollar CBN could get from sales of crude oil, putting pressure on the exchange rate, causing the exchange rate to depreciate further. So the exchange rate did not depreciate further because of BDC's activities. No, the exchange rate depreciated further simply because of that crude oil prices. Again, most of these BDCs, they are so self-sufficient, like the dollars they have stocked or stored within them is so massive that that dollar they have stocked within them, even when they ban them, there will still be activities within that sector. Those are the two factors. But the major impacting factor is that foreign exchange earnings, the crude oil prices. So now, crude oil price is gaining momentum now. And we are halfway our fiscal year. We have spent our budget. What do you expect? What you expect now is that in as much as foreign exchange earnings keeps improving, like crude oil prices keeps going up, this ban of the BDC will have a marginal impact on our exchange rate. It will stabilize. But if crude oil prices is not going up and is coming down and is impacting on the exchange rate, I tell you, it will worsen. But in as much as is impacting, crude oil prices are increasing, and then commercial banks decide to be faithful, just like as we know they should be faithful, the ban will improve the economy, because I can, okay, Sadiq.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, sir, please, I'd love for you to help clarify me on something with regards to the changes in exchange rate. You mentioned that there are four changes we can see, and then you try to explain what the steps the CBN would take and its impact for both case one and case two for devaluation and evaluation. So I'd love for you to help recap on that, please.
On what? Which one, sir?
Devaluation and evaluation for both cases. Like, what would the impact be on the exchange rate differentials, and why would it take those steps?
No, I don't understand your question. What's your first question? Sorry.
My first question is, I would love explanation for both cases.
You know, I've explained it before. Please, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yes, sir. Please, sir. That explanation might take extra 10 minutes, and it will be eating into the time. Please, just listen to the recordings when it's uploaded. If you still don't understand it, do you have my number?
Yes, I do, sir.
Okay, so if you still don't understand it, I promise you, call me up on WhatsApp. I will still explain it to you again, please. Because if I'm to explain that process again, it will take about 10 or 15 minutes and people's time are being spent. So please, just listen to that recording. Once you don't understand it, call me up, I will explain, I promise.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, sir. Any other question? Okay, so please, can you answer my question? Bitcoin, is it good? Is it bad? What's your opinion? Nobody is saying anything. Is it because all of you are doing Bitcoin, or it's not good again? Nobody is saying anything. Okay, Mona, is Bitcoin good or is it bad? You can unmute yourself and talk. Yes.
I think I can't really say if it's good or bad. It does have its benefits and it does have its detriments. So its benefit comes in the fact that a lot of young people have been able to get some source of income, and it's through their investments in Bitcoin. But then at the same time, it's kind of detrimental to the Nigerian financial markets, mainly because a lot of resources are now being channeled. Sorry?
I can hear you, please.
Okay. So a lot of resources are now being channeled to Bitcoin, and it's not really a Nigerian-based investment. So meaning our Nigerian financial markets are losing out on this financial resources. That's why I say it's both a good thing, because it's helping a lot of young people and other investors. They've been able to profit from it. At the same time, it's bad for the Nigerian economy.
Sorry, Mona, I muted you. I was trying to mute someone else. Oh yeah, please unmute yourself, please, Mona. Yeah.
Okay, so I said it's both a good thing and a bad thing, because the good thing in the aspect that a lot of people
So
have
your good is because youths get revenues, incomes from their earnings. The bad is what?
The Nigerian financial market has kind of lost resources.
Okay. Someone else. Thank you, Mona. Someone else. Nobody is saying anything. Ishola. Okay. Nobody is saying anything. So I'm not hearing a conversation. All right, so that is that. And that's your AOC, just like you requested. That's AOC. And thank you for your...
Hello, sir. Sir, attendance.